Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of our VMA digital series for 2022. I'm Zan Lawan, the Education Manager at the VMA and your facilitator for this series, which is designed to bring you informative, useful and educational content. Once again, we have secured a fantastic lineup of hosts who have generously donated their time to share their skills and experience with you along with their guests. Throughout this session, you're welcome to submit any questions using the Q&A button, and we'll endeavour to address as many as we have time for, or we'll respond to you after the session. Today, you'll hear from Jolene Elliot and her guests. Born and raised in a small New Zealand town, Jolene moved to Rotorua and worked at the Rotorua Convention Centre, where she completed a diploma in tourism industry management, graduated from the venue management school and was promoted to operations manager. With her background and experience spanning over 20 years thus far, Jolene manages Rotorua's premier facility, the Energy Event Centre and Business Events. Jolene is a current executive member and vice president of EVANZ. Jolene, over to you to introduce your guests today.
Oh, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Zan. Kia ora, ngā mihi nui ki a koutou katoa. Nau mai haere mai ki te kōrero no te whare tāpere o Aotearoa. Greetings and welcome to the VMA digital series presented by your colleagues in New Zealand. Now, it's an absolute privilege and honour to be hosting this panel today. They are leaders in the industry from all perspectives. They are also here to share their insights and tips and stories, and through this forum, help you undertake or start your own journey where you can achieve deeper cultural engagement and enhance not only your venue, event, artists or indigenous relationships, but also your communities. So a little bit of digital housekeeping before we get started. You may hear some Māori words throughout the presentations today. So I'm going to note these and provide translations for your reference later. And the session is also being recorded. So any reference websites or resources that any of our panelists mention, I'll provide these to VMA as well to include on their website. Now, it is culturally appropriate here in New Zealand that we open and close the session with a karakia, or a blessing. This is a cultural practice and provides the speakers today with a space that enables them to be genuine, authentic, and safe. So I'd like to ask Renata Blair to open our session today with a karakia. Kia ora, Renata.
Kia ora Jolene, o te rā koutou katoa ko tai mai. Ki tēnei kōrero whakahirahira mo te rā. Anō reira, ka Täkina e au te karakia e whai ake nei. Tākina tura, Tākina tahau tapua, reki Tākina te pūtaka te kōrero tēnei wāna. Ko whatatia tāne te wānanga ki runga ki enei ruanuku ke koi te matapuninga, mai angi te matapu iho, ka puta ki te whai ao ki te ao mārama haumi e hui e.
Tai ki e.
Kia ora, John.
Oh, kia ora, Renata. And now that we are in a safe space, I'd like to introduce our panel today. So today we've got three great members of our industry. We've got Kiri Rasmussen, Manager of Economic Development and Projects for Wellington City Council. And Kiri's going to talk to us about Te Täkina and the journey that they've taken with the names that they've been gifted, their stakeholder engagement with local iwi, and the integration of culture within their new facility. And then after Kiri, we're going to go to Renata, and he's going to give us a kōrero from a iwi perspective around stakeholder engagement and what works and maybe what doesn't work, the significance of the pohere, and of course that Auckland will be hosting Te Matatini next year, which is one of the largest cultural events in the world. And then last, we have Nelita from Tauranga, or Tauranga Moana, and she's going to talk to us about her organisation and give us an inward-facing view around their corporate and business approach to cultural engagement through staff, programs, wānanga, noho marae, and anything else that she may bring to the table today. So thank you to our panellists for taking time out today to be a part of this presentation. And now I'd like to hand over to Kiri. Kiri.
Kia ora tātou. I'm Kiri Rasmussen. Thank you for that introduction, Jolene. I am going to share a screen, and I've got a presentation to take you all through, and hopefully we'll explain the journey we have been on with Täkina in Wellington, which is our new convention centre that's been under construction, due to open next year. So you just hold with me while I share my screen and we can get the presentation underway. So I need to just, have I got the right screen, ladies? Lovely, thank you. Just start with our background on Täkina, and just obviously a te reo name, and it's pronounced Täkina, which we would like to just inform people, because we had getting a lot of Täkina, the meaning does change as we pronounce the name differently. So it's a great opportunity to educate people on te reo as we go through this process. I'll touch on our journey with iwi and how this work has really enriched this building and the brand for Wellington, and how important that's been as part of the process of this building. It's a new civic place for Wellington, and a place we want to host people. So it's just been, having this involvement with iwi has been significant in the journey we've been on. It's creative narrative and brand values we've got for Täkina, and I'll just touch on some of the considerations that we went through in the process and the opportunities that's created. The background of Täkina, it will be a building with 10,000 square metres of convention and meeting and exhibition space on upper levels, and it will have on the ground floor a 12,000 square metre public exhibition gallery. And there was a conscious decision to make this the ground floor to be open to the public, not just a convention centre, that people only engage with this building when you are attending a convention as a delegate, or a meeting as a sort of a private event. So this building will be active all year round. It's right opposite Te Papa, which is our national museum right on the waterfront of Wellington. And so the design of the centre, its position within the city, near the waterfront, it's near a lot of our cultural locations for mana whenua. So we really recognise as a council it was really important that the name and the narrative of this building really anchored the building in the city, and it was unique to the place. So that was our thinking behind the journey we've embarked on. We have worked very closely with Te Atiawa, Taranaki Whānui, who is the iwi that has the mana on the site this building was built on. So it was we have two prominent iwi in Wellington, and we've worked with one after consulting both of these iwi, because it was quite clear who had the mana of the site, which is, I guess, the ownership history with the site and connection. We also engaged Cato brand partners as a design agency as part of the process at the start, and that was a really important part of the process as a connection between council and iwi, and ensuring that the work that was done was really created into something that we can then launch both brand and storytelling from. And so that was a really powerful component party within the process between all of the key partners. We were through that process, we had some mananga, we had meetings, there was a lot of engagement with the cultural arm of our iwi, and the name and karakia were both gifted by iwi in 2020 and then formally adopted by our council, and later in that year. The recognition that was a very special honour to be given by iwi, this name and karakia was significant, and it's created a really powerful story and identity that's been developed through the process. And some of the visual language that you'll see coming through both the Four Winds logo, as well as things that you'll see hopefully published in journals and magazines and things coming through for Täkina. It's all anchored and based from this work. The karakia, I guess we've just had, Renata has just illustrated what that is. It's really, for us, it's a prayer-like anchoring for the building. It provides that spiritual connection. So the karakia for Täkina, the story that it illustrates is around the numerous and various winds that are pertinent to Wellington, Te Whanganui Tara, and our harbour. Anyone who's been to Wellington knows that wind plays a strong part in any village. So this story really identifies with the commonly raging winds that the harbour is known for, but also it's really softer and welcoming winds and tranquility that we are also known for. So winds make Wellington a unique place in the world, and we're proud of that. And so this is a way of anchoring both the iwi story, Wellington's environment, and some of the design elements of the building and the cultural elements that all connects with as part of this place. In the work that we did with iwi, there was a lot of considerations because as a convention centre and an exhibition space, there will be an international audience, and so some of the considerations were ensuring our names and our words that we use were easily pronounced by our visitors and our guests. We want to ensure that they feel comfortable in pronouncing them and in attempting to pronounce them, and that it is a safe place, knowing that a new language can always be a challenge for guests. But we also recognise it's a really great educational opportunity and platform. We've got a place and a building centred in a city with a history, and it's a really great way to share and create a platform for visitors to learn on that. All of our signage throughout the building will be bilingual. We'll have te reo and English signage, so that's another opportunity just for people to connect in with some of the history and the culture of this place. The opportunities we're now working through is the opportunity to tell the story through our AV. It's a new building. There will be a reasonably high volume of AV and digital technology throughout that building, and so we can use that as another platform to help tell the story of Täkina and other cultural stories. So there's some really exciting opportunities in how we use AV within the building to do that. The other things we've done within the building is just considering artworks and how we use our local iwi and their artists to do things simply like privacy screening on our meeting rooms. So we've got internal spaces between meeting rooms and exhibition space that are glass. There needs to be a glazing on those windows, but we don't want it to be, we're using the artist to tell the narrative and link it all. So it creates a lot of opportunity for that type of thing to really connect the building and the environment within that building to our story. We really believe that anchoring our civic venues in the history is and the place they're in is important. I think the buildings are really significant, both culturally, economically, and environmentally for the city. So these are sort of the principles that we had in engaging with iwi and in the construction process. I guess our ongoing involvement with Mana Whenua will simply be that we've got a wider cultural precinct that we're creating through Täkina. We have our National Museum across the road, Te Papa, our Te Aropa and Visitor Centre are nearby, and another venue called Whariwaka is on the waterfront. So we're working with iwi how we connect these places to have wider Wellington stories being told throughout what are very close in proximity. We've got lots of planning for our June 2023 opening happening with iwi and Mana Whenua, and how there'll be a strong cultural element to those processes. And just in terms of our operational elements, we're working with our iwi to develop the appropriate tikanga, which is our cultures, our protocols for staff, and how we will operate and present to all of our guests to the building, and how iwi will be operationally involved in that, what will be the roles, how they'll be resourced and engaged. And there's a lot of work in how that we're in the process of doing that with them now. And also our we've got a Te Ara Ngā Tangata Marae Pathway program, which is around really exciting opportunities for career and internships with our organisation and linking back into iwi. So we've got some really great connections both for people and place. Getting back to our brand narrative, I guess, and the work, because this really anchors the building, and I'll just read this through because it's really the anchor of the story and that we've got for Täkina. And the meaning is to invoke and to encounter, to summon and connect and bring forth. And in Wellington, that most powerful force is to be summoned here as the wind. It shapes and defines so much of our identity as a city. Täkina draws amazing and very personal encounters our way, from world-class exhibits that draw people from afar to conferences that change how the world thinks. Täkina sits at the very heart of the most walkable capital anywhere. The Whanganui Atara, Wellington Harbour, is renowned for its unique and diverse winds. Some days they rage across the harbour, blowing everything before them, and other times they're soft and welcoming and calm. We treasure and invoke all of them and each of them, because together they make Wellington a unique place. Those winds are a metaphor for the magic and exuberance sharing of ideas. The winds express the shift of knowledge from one generation to another, and they move things forward. They can carry truths and viewpoints here from the universe and from them on like dust and to others thousands of miles away. This is the nation's new meeting place, a place of welcoming, of thinking, creating, learning and sharing. A place that speaks to Wellington's history and its character. All of those invited to this place of treasured winds will feel the warmth of the hospitality here, the powerful connection of our call. As they step inside, they will find themselves immersed in experiences that change what they know. And as they leave, they will carry with them powerful impressions from what they've seen, heard, and shared. Experiences that connect us to the world we are fascinated by. Watch the amazing loom up before our eyes. That's the energy and the calling power of Täkina. So this was really the narrative that came through all of the work with Evie, and I'm now going to show you a short video which will be our Evie partners much better explaining what that story is. So I hope you enjoy this.
Täkina is the term used to encounter, to invoke the wind at any point in time. Täkina is about encountering the forces, the natural forces. It talks about how Wellington over time with the winds that have battled our harbour, we still receive. To Täkina is to encounter, invoke the aginess, to encounter and invoke the winds of the south, and to encounter and invoke the winds of the great harbour of Tauranga. The greatest gift bestowed upon any human being is the ability to breathe. Kiroto, hau kiwa. Breathe in, breathe out. Hau kiroto, hau kiwa. So it's a different form of encountering, which actually portrays of who we really are here at Wellington. So I think a convention like this is going to be dynamic. It's going to paint a really dynamic picture, an international picture of who we are here in Wellington. What's unique about Wellington? What's the best taonga that Wellington can ever bring? And it's our diversity. And it's about acknowledging our environment.
So thank you for your time today. That was it was lovely to share the work that we've done, and hopefully that the work that I've been involved in on this has been really, really enriching, and I think we've come up with a fantastic product for the city, and the name and the narrative has been a really well received and powerful summary to a new venue for the country and for Australasia, really. So thanks for your time.
Oh, kia ora, Kiri. Thank you so much for your presentation. Wow, that was so powerful. I actually felt the winds on me as you were making that presentation. I'm just super impressed with the work, the mahi that you and the council and iwi and mana whenua have put into creating the Täkina. And so thank you very much for that presentation. I'm sure that there's a few takeaways there that some of our audience will be able to gain and use and share in their organisations and areas. So next up, we'd just like to hand over to Renata Blair. In the daytime is manager of Māori Business for Bank of New Zealand. So he also knows about the commercial value of a lot of our business, but at the same time, he also sits on the board for Eden Park. And so has a great involvement in a lot of these events that we put on at Eden Park. and of course his mahi with Ngāti Whātua and Auckland Iwi. So kia ora Renata, over to you.
Kia ora koutou. Ngā mihi atu kia koutou. I rungi tēnei kōrero, me tēnei mahi whakahirahira I rungi I tā rānei. Ngā mihi kia koutou katoa, tēnā koe Kiri, me te mahi whakahirahira I Täkina mai e koe. Everybody, thank you for that lovely introduction, Jolene. I hope you can all hear me. I'm just having trouble again finding the PowerPoint that I'm supposed to share, but hopefully that will come up shortly. And I just greeted you in Māori, in our indigenous language. It's the first language of our nation. It is a language which has been grown over many, many centuries, and one which is still alive and very important to who we are as an iwi, as the indigenous peoples of Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud. New Zealand is a new word for us, which I think it's actually Dutch, I think. So I'm still proud of that name as well, but Aotearoa is the first name of this nation. My name is Renata Blair. I'm from the tribe of Ngāti Whātua, very, in my view, an amazing tribe. Māori aren't supposed to speak of their sweetness, but I will today. We have a saying that kare te kumaro e kōrero mo tōna reka, which means the kumara, which is a sweet potato, does not speak of its sweetness. But today I'm very proud to represent the tribe, or the iwi of Ngāti Whātua. I have a background in business and public relations and events management. I had my own events management company for 12 years. I previously, before that, I used to work at a place called AUT, which I sit on their board now. I live on Bastion Point, which is famous for protesting against the government taking of our lands. And I'm very proud to sit on Bastion Point because it's our home motherland of our Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei people. I live next to my marae. I've never lived outside of my tribal boundary, and I'm very proud to represent and have a lifelong commitment to my tribe, in te reo, Māori language, in education and business, and hold leadership positions within Ngāti Whātua. I've worked with government on large projects, local government, corporates, venues, funders, and today I'll touch on a few other things just to give you a bit of a flavour for who I am. And as Jolene mentioned, I will talk about tribal relationships, stakeholder engagement, pōwhiri, which is a welcome, it's traditional welcome, and hopefully have enough time to talk about te matatini. But for me, Māori and events is all about power and prestige of the culture, which we should embrace at all opportunities, and it's lovely to see it in Täkina and Te Whanganui-a-Tara or Wellington, and with the Te Aotearoa people. So a bit of background for me. I guess I launched in 2009 when I left my corporate cushy job and came into my own as an events company. In 2011, as you can see here, we had the Rugby World Cup, and we had to organise 26 waka coming into the Auckland Harbour. And at that time of the year, rugby's always played in winter. It can always be very windy, rainy, tumultuous on the sea. We actually had a beautiful morning that morning. And I think that was put down to all the karakia that we did. And sorry, I've pinched all these photos off Google because back then in 2010 and 11, there weren't all these flash phones around to take great shots on. And so we had 26 waka. This is on YouTube. You'll see them coming out of the harbour. There were 700 kaihoi, toa or warriors on these waka. It's the biggest collection of waka within Aotearoa. It's that for a big event. It basically shut down the whole of Auckland streets, CBD, with a couple of 100,000 people, and it coincided with the opening game of the Rugby World Cup, which is to this day the biggest event, in my opinion, in the history of this country. As you can see there, that's kind of a downtown shot, blurry shot of the Auckland waterfront, just completely packed with people, and it really had a big impact on the events scene and the events management leadership within the country from that day forth. Yeah, that was the night kind of Auckland blew up, and with fireworks, so we were part of the whole planning. The beauty about it was that I was part of every single element of the night to coincide for all the teams, the hundreds and thousands of people to come together on the opening night team was just incredible. So I guess if there's one thing to say, start with Māori and iwi first. Do not leave them in the last part of your engagement. They are your first cab off the rank, not the last cab off the rank. Your indigenous nation should be brought along because they add all this history and colour, vibrancy, and they add this depth because they've been there for many centuries before the arrival of the new way of life. So they have much to add. That evening, yeah, you just see the All Blacks. This is central to who they are, the haka. You know, if you're putting on a team environment, and the haka just unifies, the All Blacks exemplify this strength of this culture, of our culture, and they take it to the world and they put it on the stage of the world. It's who we're renowned for, and that's a key part of their success. People don't realize that haka, how important it is to the identity of this country. That the bottom left's one of just the show of the night, and same with the bottom right one. Those are the greatest Māori performers within New Zealand were performing that night on Eden Park for the opening event. So we had the wakas coming in, and then we had the opening event at Eden Park, and I've never seen anything like it since. Before the event started in 2011, I was part of the team that constructed these four magnificent these tiko that stand out the front. They're for the four winds of the world. They represent four atua, and they're on the four corners of Eden Park. So you can't get anything. The atua are the celestial beings, and there's 70 of them in the Māori culture. And so these ones that we placed on these four winds represent four of the great celestial beings that welcome the world to Eden Park. People beat a pathway to Eden Park because it's this famous ground of where the All Blacks never lose. They never, you know, it's a battlefield, it's a fortress, and it's built on Māori history on that area. It stands at the side of one of our great volcanoes in the city of Maungawhau. I call it the Pātū Watawata or Maungawhau, which is the fortress, which is the village of defence it's the stadium of defence, and it's the stadium where the All Blacks hardly ever lose. So that's kind of one of the events I was involved in. The second one was on the same event in 2011 was a waka Māori. So the government was looking for a great idea, so I thought I'd put one up, and building so as you can see in that top left one, those are big, massive launches, you know, luxury launches, and I thought I'd build the biggest waka in the world. And so this is what I did. In 2011, we built a fully constructible 70-meter long venue that you could go in and host people. Māori we're the brilliant hosts. We love to welcome people and feed you and care for you and be hospitable. And you have a responsibility as a visitor to enjoy that, but also contribute back to those hosts. It's not about taking and taking. You come back and you give your knowledge, your expertise, your opportunities back to a tribe. So this one was a massive statement. It's never been done before. That tail, back tail on the waka, the taurapa, is 16 meters in the air. It's made up of 4,500 individual parts to build over a 2-week period. And we transported it around the world to showcase Māori culture. And we took it to the Rugby World Cup and also to the San Francisco America's Cup. And that one on the top right photo is where basically I live, where we live next to our marae. We have these amazing events of hospitality. These are the types of colour and vibrancy that we bring to an event, and this is our traditional performing arts of matatini, or the cultural performing arts competition that happens every 2 to 3 years across the nation. So each tribe has their own competition every year, and then they go to the Champions of Championships event called Te Matatini. And as you can see, there's haka, this beautiful wahine performing, and then there's the strength and the kaha of the haka. So Eden Park, these are these four massive, as you can see, there's a man standing next to it, so it's 2 to 3 times the height of a normal person. And so these are these 4 cornerstones of this magnificent facility that we call Eden Park. And with Te Matatini, that's the stage. So as you can see, there's actually 40 people on that stage. Māori, we do things big. We don't like doing like little things. We like to showcase how the power and the prestige of our culture. And so that's probably the biggest carvings, some of the biggest carvings in the world right there on that stage. That at the apex of the stage, you have the carving, there's the kōruru, and then you have the tiko or the toa, the warrior on top, and then you have these massive big carvings on the side. And so this is going to be the pinnacle for Māori cultural performing arts, and it's at one place where you will see all the dignitaries of Māoridom. You will see government leaders, you will see regional leaders, you will see community corporates, all will be at Eden Park with tens of thousands of people, with food, artwork, fashion, showcased in one spot on over a week of celebrating Māori culture. So if you ever wanted to get a taste of Māori culture, then you go there. And at Eden Park, I'm on the board of Eden Park, which is a great responsibility to have. We have a Māori strategy. We are aiming to ensure that we have proper indigenous processes within our park. When we laid the new ground there last year, we did karakia, which were incantations to make sure that the Australians will never ever win on our park, on our soil at Eden Park. So we just built in this tradition into there, along with the All Blacks and different people, stakeholders of the event. So it's important. Then we have a work strategy that ensures that Indigenous people who love hosting people, it's a part of them, and as a venue to have Māori there, they love welcoming people into your venue. And that's what we're trying to imbue into Eden Park for Te Matatini. It's the greatest celebration of Māori, of a Māori event in the world, in the nation. So we are very proud to host that at Eden Park. But we have to make sure our board, our staff, our executive get it. And they need to understand what our Māori culture and what we're trying to achieve. So the power, prestige, the indigeneity of Te Ao, and putting Te Ao Māori into your venues, into your events is critical for me. I think when I speak about stakeholder engagement, it's all about starting there first. Don't start last. Take the time. We have a long-term view. We love sitting down with people, talking about probably everything other than your event until we get to the topic. We want to know you as a person, where you come from, who you connected with, how did you get to your position? It's all about understanding people. You'll hear this thing called he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What's the most important thing of the world? It's people, it's people, it's people. We want to connect with you because we have huge demands on us as iwi leaders. We have an economic responsibility. We have cultural responsibilities. We have sustainability, social responsibilities. And everybody wants a piece of that iwi. And you need to resource that engagement with them. Don't expect them to come with all the money, and we've only just built our money up. We're not going to give it away, just for, to willy-nilly type of things. We want to make sure that it's resourced properly, that it's meaningful. So when you engage, it's about meaning. It's not about, we worry about you and how you're going to bring a difference to us. So when we do welcomes for Pōwhiri, when I turn to Pōwhiri, you see that it's hugely it's hugely emotional. It's about tactile. It's not about, oh, hi, everybody, I'm going to do a really boring speech here and think this, think that. This is eloquent speech. The art of oratory is on display. You will see a challenge from these warriors come out to you to see whether you're friend or foe. Then you'll see a massive haka-pōwhiri of all these people holding all these greenery, welcoming you in, this huge amount of energy, this huge amount of emotions poured out to the visitors. And then we sit down and we talk, and we don't sit down and talk, we deliver this amazing oratory speech, which people have been trained for decades in how to deliver a speech. There's honor, it's serious, it's memorable. And we're there to host. We want to host you, but again, it's on your responsibility as a visitor to deliver an amazing speech back. You know, we're a people about listening to agreements, making sure that you deliver a wonderful speech back to the people. So this pōwhiri is so important. The welcome, the traditional welcome is incredibly important. So if you do have pōwhiri in your events, if you do have these welcomes, then please put the time into it. Put the time in being a wonderful visitor, because you will get hosted like you've never been hosted before by the tribe. So that's my some of my tips today there, Jolene, and I hope, if people got questions at the end, ka pai.
Oh, kia ora, Renata, that was amazing. And I must admit, when you were talking about the waka for the Rugby World Cup, I kind of had this vision of what we're talking about today, because in a lot of cases we reference waka as an analogy for the journey, isn't it? And if we then sort of show how it can go wrong, as if you've got some people facing the wrong way and paddling in a different direction. And that would be another way you would talk about stakeholder engagement. We won't go anywhere if half is going one way and half is paddling the other way. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's important. The waka, obviously Māori are the greatest explorers on the planet. We were doing the Pacific Ocean before Cook had even been born, you know. And so we just love navigation and exploring, but absolutely, if you're not all on the same waka, paddling in the same direction, have your place and your responsibility on there, then it can go a bit wayward.
Yeah, I must admit that, you know, I always claim to be, you know, a descendant of a long line of navigators. And when I drive around Auckland, without my Google Map device on, I feel like I'm drawing on those ancestral qualities that get me to where I need to be. Yeah. So thank you very much, Renata. I'm now going to talk to Nelita. Nelita, no mai, welcome. And please share with us, as my neighbour over in Tauranga, share with us with the mahi that you're doing over there in regards to cultural diversity and venues and events.
Thank you. Kia ora, Jolene, and everyone. I guess I'm really starting on the journey of kind of understanding and the learning of te ao Māori, tikanga and the culture. And at times, I've got to admit, it's a little awkward. I get a little nervous. My pronunciation isn't the greatest, because I really want to ensure that I give the respect to the culture. So what I want to share is kind of how we've started it with the team on that journey, and that, you know, how easy it is to embrace. I guess it's like all things. It's like eating an elephant, sort of one small bite at a time, and just taking those small steps. And my experience has been, by having a real genuine willingness to be open and to learn and to understand, you get really good support from both your cultural advisors, EV representatives, and indigenous people. And I can share this, like one experience I had was it was actually one of my first presentations here in Tauranga, in front of city leaders, commissioners, EV representatives. It was a hard gig at 7 a.m. in the morning anyway. And I was trying to, you know, as you do the night before, making sure I got my pronunciation right. And unfortunately, I did stumble on a couple of pronunciation for some of the key iwi. And, you know, you have that sinking feeling, as you always do, when you sort of don't get things quite right. And afterwards, but a couple of the cultural representatives or iwi representatives came up to me afterwards and they showed the appreciation that I was, you know, trying, and that I acknowledged that I hadn't got it right, and, you know, keep urging me to keep practicing. And now when they see me down the street, they still sort of make sure I keep practicing and getting my pronunciations right. So I sort of thought I'd share some of the things that we're doing within what I did within when I was at New Plymouth District Council, and also here in Tauranga Moana. Because I guess as a council, most councils have sort of some program of basic sort of cultural competency, and in New Plymouth, all senior leaders went on a course where we learned about the treaty. We started the journey of pronunciation, getting our vowels right, learning the tikanga, sort of the protocols, and learning our pepeha and different waiata and karakia. And then we needed to look at how we embedded in our team, but it was just a basic course. So it was like how we did that. So we started small, and like with my team, while we did in external meetings, we followed the process with our karakia at both the beginning and end. Internally, internal teams, we practiced our karakia together, and it was a safe place where we could all learn and practice and stumble and help each other to make sure that we got the pronunciation and the wording right. We understood the meaning behind it. I think as Renata and even Kiri shared, there's always stories, and they're beautiful, enriching stories behind those, and understanding that. So that was a really great way, and it's a great way to sort of bring your team along on that journey with you and understanding. We always finished our meeting with a whakatauki, which is the kind of guiding words of wisdom. They're sort of they're an expression that kind of alludes and often has a story that elements of our Aotearoa nature, and so that you have the te reo wording, then the English translation, but then beneath that is a really rich story of what it means and how it comes, which is so great to share. And it was always a nice way to finish a meeting, inspire the team, and again, to incorporate the language into what we do. We did waiata practice once a week. So on a Thursday at 9 AM, whoever was available and other teams within the organisation would all get together. And it was a great way of practicing our pronunciation, but also using our voices, be inspired. And it also meant that we had a group of strong singers that could assist if we were ever doing a pōwhiri or mihi whakatau. And most of the team, they loved it. They said it was such an invigorating way to start the day, you know, singing. It's a really beautiful way of starting the day and setting us up. We obviously, like most organisations, we've got our values, and they're behavioural driven. We've always made sure that our behaviours are bilingual, and often the definition is slightly different in the te reo translation. And I think the beauty of that, again, it comes, and we keep talking about that storytelling and that richness and vibrancy. So it gave it more depth, and it allowed staff to really find the meaning that sort of resonated with them. And we became a really powerful tool to sort of align our team behaviours. We also learned, and I'm sort of going into some really practical areas, that what we did as a team, we learned our pepeha. So we did a team a day way where each of us learned our pepeha, and that's your introduction of yourself, and it's learning about where you come from. So it's about the mountain that you connect to, the body of water that you connect to, and where your family's from and those connections. So as well as learning the pepeha, so that if we're ever in a situation and we encourage our staff to use their pepeha wherever possible, it was a great way of learning about each other as well. And again, that team bonding. We used te reo in both our email greetings and sign-offs, and we have the names of our roles in both English and te reo, and we try and integrate other words. And again, it has been that really mindfulness. Everyone's at different levels of understanding, so sharing those words and sharing what their meaning is for the team. And I found most of our team, even if they hadn't, had come into our country, come into Aotearoa, and we knew they wanted to embrace and understand those words, and each week we'd try and use a different word. and embed it, and so it becomes part of our everyday culture or everyday use. I guess in some of the practical areas, like with bilingual signage in the venues. So a lot of the venues, we wanted to have the bilingual signage, and initially that's quite an expensive process to change out all your signage. But we did simple things, as the policy was that whenever you replaced a new sign, it had to be bilingual. So just the little things that, you know, started to make the difference. And I guess, yeah, the beauty, and I guess what I want to reiterate, I'm really conscious we're sort of moving into time, so I'll sort of speed through, is and both what Renata and Kiri were saying, it's the engaging, is this amazing storytelling, and it's so important to engage first with the local people of your land and the iwi, making sure that you're speaking to the right people. And there's, like I had in my area of venues, that the connection and the ownership of the land sat with different iwi, so there were slightly different protocols or different ways of doing things. So there's no cookie cutter way of doing it, but that brings the gold, because, you know, you get this genuine, authentic engagement for both iwi, but also for your team. And they have that real, and you could hear it in Kiri's presentation, that proud ownership of the building that you have and the land that it sits with and its connections. And I guess that's what we're all about in the venues industry. We're about connections and making those wonderful experiences. So yeah, I guess my sort of message is the small steps, and that just brings gold to everyone, the team building, bonding, and the connection with your city and the people. So thank you.
Oh, kia ora, Nelita, that was amazing. Gosh, I had little goosebumps listening to you talk just then. It was just so awesome to hear about your journey and that of your team, and how everyone's going along in the same direction. So I think Tauranga Moana are very lucky to have you in their rohe at the moment. And to the rest of our panelists, wow, I can't say enough to thank you all for your presentations today. I have got a few takeaways for our audience. If I start off with Kiri, a few key words that Kiri brought out was about it being enriching and powerful experience. And I felt that was what I felt listening to you, kōrero. And then with Renata, power and prestige. That was really resonated with me. And of course, I think the best tip you gave was engaging with your stakeholders first and taking them at the start of the journey. And then of course with Nelita, it was practice. Bring it into your day-to-day life. Practice everything that you're learning, and there's no issues with that. And yes, you might stumble, but I'm sure those kaumātua over in Tauranga looked after you afterwards as well. And I also really listened to you saying using our voices and being inspired by the storytelling. So super impressed with those words, but some two words that I think I would like to pass on to our audience today: be genuine, be authentic. So in whatever you take on when you start this journey, take it from a safe place, be genuine and authentic in whatever you decide to do. So ngā mihi nunui kia koutou katoa. Thank you so much for your presentations today. I hope that our audience took something away from that. And to close, I'd like to ask Renata to close our hui with a karakia.
Apai, kia ora Jolene, me o mahi rangatira, me te whakakapi te tātou nei hui, tēnā koe Jolene. Yeah, this karakia incantations, something that it just closes our meeting off, and it puts the kōrero that we've had, or the speeches, or what we've brought to the table, up into a place of peace, in a place of where it belongs, that we can draw upon it in the future. So this is a karakia that I'll lay out. Unuhia tu ki te hautapua riki inuhia, te putake te kōrero tēnei wānanga. Whakairihia rongo ke paitara a whare, tuturu whakamaua kia tīna.
Tīna.
Haumi e hui e
Tai ki e.
Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora. And now I'd like to hand back to Zan so that she can just close it up from a VMA perspective.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Jolene, for hosting. And what a brilliant, brilliant session. Thank you. it was really insightful and something that we can all definitely learn from. Fantastic to hear from, you know, the New Zealand perspective, the engagement and the integration that you're all working through, something the Australian industry no doubt can definitely learn from. And don't forget, we also have our professional development workshops taking place in all the major Australian capital cities in the coming weeks. There have been a few date changes and our website has all the updated details for you. We also hope to see you at Congress at the ICC Sydney from the 30th of May to the 1st of June, and we're looking forward to reconnecting face-to-face with everyone. You can find the registration details for all these events on our website, or feel free to give us a call or send us an email. You can also join us again next month for a different flavour in our next episode, the Staples Centre to Crypto.com Arena. Ray Saban, the manager of event operations at Kai Tak Sports Park in Hong Kong, chats with Lee Ziedman, the president of Crypto.com Arena, on the challenges of managing a large precinct, the passing of key iconic figures such as Kobe Bryant and Nipsey Hussle, and the effect that has had on the sports and entertainment community. They also discuss what the industry may look like in the future. So registration is also open for that session. Thank you once again. Thank you all to our New Zealand counterparts. Really appreciate your time. We hope to see you next month, and bye for now.